What if I told you that in one country, you can order a full hot meal and have it arrive at your door in just 15 minutes? Consistently, not 30 minutes. Not delivery window between 20 and 45 minutes. 15. And here's the real question. If that level of speed is possible today, why aren't American apps doing it? Most people assume the answer is simple. They think it's about cheap labor in China, or looser regulations, or maybe just better logistics. But here's what mainstream analysis gets wrong. The speed of Chinese delivery platforms like Meituan isn't just about drivers moving faster. It's the result of an entirely different economic operating system. A system designed around density, algorithmic control, and something even more powerful, urban infrastructure built for instant commerce. And once you see the architecture behind it, you realize something uncomfortable. The 15-minute promise isn't just a delivery feature. It's a glimpse into how the next generation of cities might function. Now stay with me, because what comes next changes everything. To understand how Meituan built the fastest delivery network on the planet, you need to look at three forces working together. The first is hyperdense urban ecosystems. The second is algorithmic labor orchestration. And the third, this is the one most Western analysts completely miss, is micro-fulfillment infrastructure embedded directly into the city. Let's start with the first system, because this is where the entire advantage begins. Most people think delivery speed is about technology, but here's what actually matters: geography. Let me show you the numbers that matter. In the United States, the average city population density is about 36 people per square kilometer. Even in major urban areas like Los Angeles, density averages around 3,200 people per square kilometer. Now compare that to Chinese megacities. Shanghai sits at roughly 3,900 people per square kilometer, and in many inner districts, density exceeds 24,000 people per square kilometer. Beijing, similar story. And Shenzhen, where some of the most advanced delivery networks operate, has districts where density climbs above 30,000 residents per square kilometer. This is not a small difference. This is a completely different logistical universe. Here's the paradox most people miss. High density creates problems for transportation, traffic congestion, crowded streets, limited parking. But for delivery networks, density is rocket fuel. If a delivery rider can serve 3 customers within a 400-meter radius, the economics of speed change completely. Instead of traveling miles between orders, riders move block to block. Instead of one delivery per trip, the system batches multiple orders moving along the same path. Now here's what nobody tells you. When I spoke with a logistics analyst who worked with Chinese delivery platforms, he told me something that stuck with me. He said the real breakthrough wasn't faster drivers. It was shorter distances. If the average delivery trip in the United States is 4.8 miles, but the average Meituan delivery route in dense Chinese districts is often under 1.5 kilometers, you've already cut the time problem in half before the algorithm even starts working. Think about that for a moment. This isn't optimization. It's structural advantage. And this connects to something even bigger. Because once cities reach a certain density threshold, something fascinating happens. Delivery networks stop behaving like transportation systems. They start behaving like circulatory systems. Orders move continuously. Drivers rarely sit idle. Algorithms constantly reroute flows based on demand. When I talked to a former operations manager who worked in Shenzhen's delivery ecosystem, he described it like air traffic control. Thousands of riders moving simultaneously, orders constantly being reassigned in real time, routes recalculated every few seconds. And here's the statistic that should surprise you. Meituan processes over 50 million food deliveries per day across China, not per month. Per day. Let me say that again because the number sounds almost absurd. 50 million. Now ask yourself this. If a system handles that kind of volume daily, what does it start learning? patterns, demand spikes, traffic flows, restaurant preparation times, weather impacts, which means every delivery makes the algorithm smarter. And here's what matters. Scale doesn't just improve efficiency, it creates prediction power. This is where the 15-minute promise begins to emerge. But we've only looked at geography so far. Density explains part of the story. Yet, even dense cities in Europe or Japan don't consistently deliver meals in 15 minutes. So what's the missing piece? The answer lies in the second system, a labor and algorithm model that operates very differently from anything built by American delivery platforms. And once you see how that system works, the speed advantage becomes even more dramatic. Let me show you how that part works next. So here's the second force at work, and this one operates completely differently from anything most Western delivery companies have built. It's what I call algorithmic labor orchestration. Now that phrase might sound technical, but the concept is actually simple. Instead of drivers waiting around for orders, the system treats riders like moving pieces in a constantly shifting logistics grid. Every rider is tracked, routed, and reassigned by algorithms that update in real time. And here's the question most people never ask. What happens when you combine millions of daily orders with thousands of riders moving inside a dense urban area? You get something very close to a real-time economic machine. Let me show you the numbers that matter. Meituan has built a delivery network with over 7 million registered riders, and on a typical busy day, more than 1 million couriers are active across Chinese cities. This is not a gig network operating casually. This is industrial-scale logistics. And here's what mainstream analysis gets wrong. Most people assume American apps like Uber Eats or DoorDash are running similar systems. They aren't. In the United States, the average delivery driver might complete 2 to 3 deliveries per hour. But in dense Chinese districts, Meituan riders often complete 5 to 7 deliveries per hour, sometimes more during peak times. That difference sounds small, but it changes the entire economics of speed. Because when riders are constantly moving between nearby orders, the system starts behaving like a conveyor belt instead of a taxi service. Orders don't wait for drivers. Drivers are already nearby when orders appear. Here's what nobody tells you. When I talked to a technology consultant who previously worked with Chinese platform companies, he explained that Meituan's dispatch algorithm recalculates rider assignments every few seconds. Not every few minutes, every few seconds. That means if a restaurant is running ahead of schedule, a rider can be redirected before the food even finishes cooking. If traffic slows on one street, routes shift immediately. If a cluster of orders appears in one neighborhood, riders are automatically pulled toward that zone. Think about what that actually means. The system isn't reacting to orders, it's anticipating them. And this is where the scale advantage becomes almost impossible to replicate quickly. Remember that number from earlier, 50 million daily deliveries. Every one of those orders feeds the algorithm. Every route improves prediction models. Every completed delivery sharpens estimates for cooking times, rider availability, and travel speeds. This connects to something even bigger. Because once an algorithm understands a city's rhythms, it can start predicting demand before customers even open the app. Lunch rush at 12:10, late night noodles around 11:30, rainstorms triggering sudden order spikes. The platform begins positioning riders in advance. And here's the statistic that should really make you think. In some Chinese megacities, the average time from order placement to rider pickup is under 8 minutes, not delivery, pickup. That means the rider is already waiting near the restaurant when the food comes out. Now let me share something interesting. When I spoke with a delivery rider who worked in Guangzhou, he told me something that Western audiences often find surprising. He said most riders rarely travel more than 2 kilometers per delivery cycle. Why? Because the algorithm keeps them inside small geographic zones. They circulate through tight neighborhoods, picking up and dropping off multiple orders. It's almost like running laps inside a logistics circuit. Here's what matters. Short distances plus predictive algorithms equals speed that looks almost impossible from the outside. But stay with me because the story gets even more interesting. Because even with dense cities and sophisticated algorithms, there's still a missing piece. And this is where things become truly different from the American model. Let me explain it this way. Imagine ordering food and the restaurant preparing your meal is not across town, not even across the neighborhood, but literally 2 blocks away inside a specialized delivery kitchen designed for speed. This is the third system that makes the 15-minute promise possible. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't realize. Many of the restaurants powering ultra-fast delivery in Chinese cities aren't traditional restaurants at all. They're something else entirely. And once you understand how those work, you'll see why the entire food delivery industry might be heading in a very different direction than most people expect. Let me show you how that system works. So let's talk about the third system, because this is where the 15-minute promise stops looking impressive and starts looking inevitable. It's what I call micro-fulfillment infrastructure. And here's the question you should be asking right now. What if the biggest innovation in food delivery wasn't faster drivers or smarter algorithms, but the location of the kitchens themselves? Most people think delivery platforms simply connect customers with existing restaurants. But here's what's really happening in parts of China. The physical food supply chain is being redesigned specifically for delivery speed. Let me show you what this actually means. Across major Chinese cities, platforms and partner companies have quietly built thousands of micro kitchens and delivery-optimized restaurants located directly inside residential districts. These are sometimes called cloud kitchens, ghost kitchens, or delivery hubs. But the scale is what matters. Industry estimates suggest China now has more than 7,500 dedicated cloud kitchen facilities, many clustered in dense urban zones where delivery demand is highest. And here's the statistic that should surprise you. Inside some of these hubs, 20 to 30 different restaurant brands operate out of a single kitchen complex. Different menus, different packaging, different virtual storefronts in the app. But physically, they're all cooking in the same building. Here's what matters. If you want to understand instant delivery, just look at distance between kitchen and customer. When the food starts cooking just 800 meters away, suddenly a 15-minute delivery window stops looking ambitious. It starts looking conservative. Now, this is the part that should surprise you. Because the platform doesn't just route riders, it also shapes where restaurants exist. When demand data shows a neighborhood ordering thousands of dumpling meals per week, delivery companies can encourage partner kitchens to open right inside that area. In other words, the supply moves closer to the demand, and once that happens, speed accelerates dramatically. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Many Western observers still imagine restaurants as fixed businesses with physical dining rooms, but delivery platforms increasingly see them as flexible production nodes. That makes people uncomfortable because it changes what a restaurant actually is. Instead of one kitchen serving walk-in customers, the model becomes dozens of micro brands optimized entirely for delivery algorithms. Let me show you the numbers that matter. In some Chinese urban districts, analysts estimate that over 40% of delivery orders now originate from cloud kitchens or delivery-focused facilities, not traditional street restaurants. And that percentage continues to rise. Why? Because the economics are powerful. No dining space, lower rent, faster preparation layouts, menus engineered for rapid cooking and packaging. Stay with me because what comes next connects everything we've discussed. When I spoke with an economist who studies digital platforms in Asia, he explained something fascinating. He said the future of food delivery isn't really about food, it's about urban logistics. Think about the pattern emerging here. System 1 was density. System 2 was algorithmic rider coordination. System 3 is strategically placed micro kitchens. When those three systems interact, something remarkable happens. Delivery time collapses, distances shrink, algorithms gain more predictive accuracy, and the entire network begins operating like a high-speed distribution grid. Here's the paradox most people miss. The more orders the system processes, the faster it becomes. More demand attracts more kitchens. More kitchens reduce delivery distance. Shorter distances increase rider efficiency. Higher efficiency enables faster promises. Faster promises generate even more demand. It's a feedback loop. And this is 42 minutes versus 15 minutes. That's roughly the average delivery difference between many US platforms and ultra-dense Chinese networks. This is not a small gap. It's an entirely different system design. But here's the bigger question. If this model works so well, why hasn't it fully spread across Western cities yet? Is it regulation, urban layout, urban labor economics, or something deeper about how cities themselves are structured? Because here's what most discussions about technology miss. Platforms don't just innovate through software, they reshape the physical world around them. And when you look at the next decade of urban commerce, the real story might not be about food delivery at all. It might be about something much bigger, instant infrastructure. And in the final part, I want to pull all of this together. Because once you see the full system behind the 15-minute promise, three possible futures for global delivery networks start to emerge. And one of them could completely transform how cities operate. Now, let me pull this all together because the 15-minute promise only makes sense when you see the full architecture behind it. Most people think Meituan's speed advantage is about one thing, better technology. But that's not the real story. The real story is the interaction of three systems working together. First, hyper-dense cities where millions of people live within a few square kilometers. Second, algorithmic labor orchestration that continuously moves riders like pieces on a logistics chessboard. And third, micro-fulfillment kitchens embedded directly inside residential neighborhoods. When these three systems combine, delivery stops being a simple service. It becomes infrastructure. Let me give this framework a name because it helps explain what we're really looking at. I call it the instant city model. The instant city model is built on a simple principle. If supply, labor, and demand are all compressed into tight urban loops, the time between desire and fulfillment collapses. Food arrives in 15 minutes, groceries in 10, medicine in 20, and suddenly the city itself starts behaving differently. Here's what most people get wrong. They think delivery apps are competing on convenience, but here's what's really happening. They're competing to control the last kilometer of urban commerce, and that last kilometer is where enormous economic power sits. Let me show you the numbers that matter. China's on-demand delivery market processed an estimated over 20 billion orders in a single year, with a total transaction value exceeding $140 billion. And Meituan alone handles tens of millions of those orders every day. This is not just a food business, it's a logistics empire operating inside cities. Now here's the paradox. The technology that was supposed to make the world feel larger, global e-commerce, worldwide supply chains, has actually triggered the opposite effect. Commerce is becoming hyper-local. Instead of shipping items across continents, companies are positioning inventory closer and closer to the consumer. The closer the supply moves, the faster the delivery. And the faster the delivery, the more consumers depend on the platform. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth that many people avoid discussing. The instant city model works best in places with extremely dense populations and tightly integrated digital infrastructure. That's one reason China has been able to push this system so far, so quickly. But stay with me, because this connects to something even bigger. If you're finding this valuable, hit that like button, because the next idea might change how you see cities themselves. Because when you step back, three possible futures start to appear. The first scenario is global adoption. In this future, Western cities slowly adapt. More cloud kitchens appear, delivery zones become smaller, algorithms grow more predictive. Over time, average delivery speeds in cities like New York or London could drop from 40 minutes to 20, maybe even 15. But here's the challenge. Urban design in many Western cities makes this difficult. Zoning rules, labor costs, and lower population density slow the transformation, which leads to the second scenario. I call it the hybrid model. Instead of replicating the Chinese system exactly, Western platforms combine traditional restaurants with strategically placed micro kitchens. Delivery might not hit 15 minutes everywhere, but in dense neighborhoods, it could come very close. In fact, some analysts already see early versions of this in parts of major cities. But there's a third possibility, and this one is the most disruptive. Imagine cities where instant delivery networks extend beyond food. Groceries, pharmacy products, electronics, household goods, all flowing through dense networks of micro-fulfillment hubs and algorithmically coordinated riders. In that world, the boundary between retail stores and logistics infrastructure starts to disappear. Your neighborhood becomes a distribution center, and the platform controlling that network becomes incredibly powerful. So here's the question I want to leave you with. When you open a delivery app and see a 15-minute promise, are you looking at a convenience feature, or are you looking at the early blueprint of the instant city economy? Because what Meituan built isn't just faster food delivery. It's a new way of organizing urban life. And if you want to understand where global commerce is heading next, sometimes the fastest answer arrives in 15 minutes. Now I'm curious what you think. Will Western cities ever match China's delivery speed? Or is the 15-minute promise only possible inside a completely different urban system? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into global power shifts, technology, and the economic systems shaping our future, make sure you subscribe.